Looks like we hit noon. Hi, everybody. I'm David Zlasko with Cocosing Solar. I appreciate y'all joining us and going over this webinar. Cocosing Solar is doing more of these webinars through our various departments. So feel free to check out our website, see any more that are upcoming. But today we are going to discuss navigating the energy community tax credit and kind of walk through the bonus map too to show you how we're utilizing that and how you can utilize it to find products that may qualify for a additional tax credit. So brief introduction here. I'm David Zlasko. Again, I'm a commercial solar consultant. So I work with a lot of businesses, nonprofits, municipalities on understanding how to go solar, answering their questions and establishing initial design based on customers' goals and properties. So I've been doing solar. In July, I'll be 10 years in the industry and been with Third Sun Solar 2015, who Cocosing Solar acquired about 2 years ago. So a big part of my job is designing initial projects for the customer and then also doing a lot of financial modeling. So we look at customers' electric bills to determine their cost of electricity, how much the system will save them, and then what type of ROI and cash flow analysis that will come from this project. As we talk about tax credit, important disclaimer here. Cocosing Solar, we are a construction company. We engineer, procure, and construct solar projects. We are not your tax expert. We are your solar expert. So everyone's unique in their federal tax liability, their federal tax rate structures. So please consult your tax professional to go over these. So essentially, our process is to say, hey, this is what is available in your area. Please check with a tax professional to see how applicable it is to you. So throughout this presentation too, please, if you have any questions, use the Q&A box, chat box, and we'll be able to answer your questions at the end. But as things come up, feel free to send them and we'll compile them and then have a nice Q&A at the end there for you. So you're all here to learn more about the Energy Community Tax Credit. So this is a new adder that was established through the Inflation Reduction Act, which was passed in August of 2022. So that act had several different incentives and funding for clean energy projects. So specifically to solar energy projects, the tax credit that was a base tax credit that we've had for almost about 15 or 15 plus years, going on 20, that was extended through 2022 to 2033 at 30%. What we're going to be talking about is various adders that are in the Inflation Reduction Act that you can add on top of that 30% tax credit. So what is new also with Inflation Reduction Act is the delineation between system size. So projects under 1 megawatt AC are treated differently than projects over a megawatt AC. So starting with 1 megawatt, under 1 megawatt AC, like I mentioned, the tax credit base is 30%. This offers long-term planning and certainty. Several years of myself being in the industry, there was always a scale down. And so at the end of the year, we had a lot of rush for customers to get in before the tax credit went from 30 to 26%. The new rules, having about 10 years of runway now, allows for more planning and certainty around the tax credit. Um, there are three adders that are were included in the Inflation Reduction Act. Um, the two that we're not going to really dive into deeply today are the 10% bonus for domestic content. So if you're able to get a certain percentage of the equipment that is made in the United States, you could potentially get a 10% adder to that 30% base tax credit. Currently, there's still a guidance coming from the IRS and the Department of Energy about what qualifies as domestic content. And because of this, though, we are seeing a lot of manufacturers do more onshoring and coming to the United States to have their full supply chain here, or full process here available so that customers can take advantage of these tax credits. Right now, we're anticipating probably 2025, 2026 that the market would catch up to be able to take care of this domestic content. But there are some materials out there that may make this move forward for you now. And we're happy to have that discussion. The other one is a low income community tax credit. It's an additional 10%. There's a low income residential housing, could also have about 20% tax credit adder as well. The caveat here is these are capped and they're application based. So I believe each year there's going to be about 750 megawatts of solar that can apply and take advantage of these tax credits. I believe the first time they opened the applications, I think that they received about 3 gigawatts of applications. So it's very competitive. The low income community tax credit has its own separate map that you can look up as well. But we're talking about energy community tax credit because it seems more of a solid deal, more of a sure thing, so to speak, compared to these other two. So you can see here 10%, 10%, and 10% or 20 for those two. So projects that are under or over a megawatt AC, they have actually special labor requirements. And so they require that labor is paid with prevailing wages and have apprenticeship programs that a lot of unions hold. So in order to get that full 30% for a product that's over a megawatt AC, you have to hit those labor requirements. If you do not hit those labor requirements, you can see here that the base tax credit goes from 30% to 6%, and then the adders go from 10% to 2%. So very important, that this is acknowledged for projects of this size. Kokosing Solar is uniquely positioned that we do meet these labor requirements all in-house. So we're not having to self-contract or subcontract any other labor to meet these requirements. Our team of laborers and carpenters and apprenticeships can help you qualify for that. And again, if you have any questions on these, please send them into the Q&A. But now we're going to go over the energy community tax credit. So essentially, there's three categories that qualify for a energy community tax credit. And the first one is coal closure energy communities. So these are areas that have had a coal mine closure or a coal-fired generation plant closure since December 31st of 2009. Any of that area would qualify in that census tract where those closures occurred. In addition to, you're also eligible if you are a adjoining census tract to those areas. So a nearby town and census tract would qualify for that as well. Another area is called metropolitan statistical areas. Um, and these are going to be based on employment levels. Um, this is less of this can change annually. Where the coal closures, that is good for the 10 years of the ITC. Um, Basically, what the MSAs are taking into account is federal, or I'm sorry, uh, fossil fuel employment, direct employment. There's a percentage of that in each census tract, as well as certain amount of tax that comes into those census tracts from the fossil fuel industry. So they're looking at areas that have been impacted by a loss of employment due to the fossil fuel industry, or has current employment there. So that, like I mentioned, is going to be based off the so right now, this was based off of 2023 census tract data. And the map was upgraded in June of 2024. So just within the last couple weeks. And so every year, they're going to adjust this data, and the map will reflect the current data of which area would qualify for an MSA. And then lastly, brownfields. So brownfields could also qualify for this 10% uh, adder under the energy community tax credit. So this is not going to be involved in the map that I'm about to show you and go over for today's meeting. But this is something that you can look through if you have a site that is deemed a brownfield by the EPA. They do have a list of requirements and a map that you can use there too. So here I'm gonna walk you through this map so we can see how it works. All right. So this map is in partnership with the Department of Energy, and we're gonna put a link in the chat for you there. So it's pretty easy to use, and a lot of information here. So honing on in Ohio, you can see the different colors that we were showing. Let me zoom in a little bit. So you can see here, everything in the green is going to be a census tract with a coal closure. And then the light green is going to show directly adjoining a census, those census tracts with a coal closure. And then the MSAs are here in the pink as well. So there's some map layers that you can turn on and off. So if you just wanted to look at where the coal closures are, you can turn that off. Um, and what we have on here is right now is MSAs that are completely energy communities. So they meet both the fossil fuel employment threshold and the unemployment rate in the area. Um, you can turn this on here and just look at the ones that meet the fossil fuel threshold. But at this time, they are not energy communities. So we're not really using that. And then there is historical data. So, like we said, these change, right? The MSA data, you can go back and look and see if your region was an energy community. That may be beneficial to, if employment fluctuates in your area may become one again in the future. But for now, our team is really just focusing on the coal plant closures and the MSAs. So you can see a lot of places in Southwest Ohio, or Southeast Ohio, I'm sorry, into the Appalachia, a lot of coal plant mines closing and generation facilities. So these areas are definitely keen on receiving this energy tax credit. Here too, pretty simple search address. So I have a customer that Um, we're hoping to, oh, let's see here. You can put in an address here. If you we sent you the link, you could put an address here that you could look and see um, what locations qualify. Um, let's see here. So I'm in our team's all over the place. We have office in Columbus. I'm in the Cleveland area. So projects you can see in here, showing both the census tract enclosures, um, as well as just west of me here in Avon Lake, where there's a recent coal plant closure. So very simple to use. If we hone in, you can see some areas may qualify for both. Um, so they may hit both the threshold for the employment and then also be near a census tract that has a coal closure. Um, and again, our team is going to we sent the link in the chat. If there's any other um, questions, please send it in the Q&A here. But pretty great tool. Again, it's updated annually. Um, also, the what we also saw as an update was certain NAICS codes that were added to cover certain employment too. So that was something that, in addition to this map, they added different types of fossil fuel employment that could qualify for the MSAs as well. So that kind of expanded that reach there. All right. So that's the map. That is the energy community tax credit. Again, kind of showing you what's available. Use this map to find what's available in your area, and then always consult with your tax professional, see how it impacts you. So this is a portion. If you're considering solar, you know, showing why some organizations go solar, why businesses that we're seeing right now are going solar. Um, and it's really a lot of it is operating costs. Solar can significantly reduce your energy costs around your electric bill, and also hedging against rising rates. So in the last couple of years, in 2022, the third-party supplier market went up very significantly in Ohio due to global market trends, and then also we saw some of the standard rate offerings from the utilities go up pretty significantly, in some areas doubling. So solar can hedge against that volatility. When you have your solar, you now have a power plant on your property that is producing energy for you. So as the rates do increase, the rate of savings from that system will increase as well. And we see about, in the last 30 years or so, on average, about a 2 to 3% increase in energy rates year over year. What we're also seeing currently too is a lot of companies are trying to showcase sustainability efforts. We have companies that are putting their own carbon reduction goals into place and having a deadline to meet those. We're also seeing a lot of customers, especially in the manufacturing field or in the auto industry, that their main vendor customer is requiring them to green up their options. So a General Motors, a Toyota, a Honda may say, hey, we'll keep buying this part from you, but you have to, show that you're reducing carbon emissions into your operations. So that's something that is continually growing in terms of the businesses that we are seeing. So another benefit that solar can have is really hit those marks and make sure that you're adding value not just in operating costs, but value to your partners, your suppliers who want to have a fully clean supply chain. And then another reason we're seeing people go solar is just engagement from employees. Companies want to work for places that have some of these initiatives in place, and so solar can definitely help with that too. What to consider and what we really look at, and a big part of my job is identifying places that have good have a good potential for solar is really considering, what is the goal of the company, and then designing around that goal. So does the company want to achieve the best ROI? We can size a system to that by understanding your electrical rate structures, how the system is going to import into your system, and how much it exports back into the utility grid. Or going back to, carbon reduction goals, are we trying to hit a carbon reduction metric? That can be metric tons per year, various metrics that some companies are sharing with us. So we start there. What is the goal, and how do we design around that goal? From there, taking a look at energy load profiles. So when I work with a customer, I typically ask for 12 months of electric bills. So we can see your energy consumption history, we can see monthly demand profile, and then also see how much energy, what rate you're structured with the utility, and what, if you have a third party supplier, what that rate would look like, and how does that impact some of those return on investment goals. So a big part of my job is consistently looking at electric bills and analyzing them for you. And then on the site, we can do various systems. We do a lot of roof mounted systems. We do a lot of ground mounted systems. And what's becoming a little bit more popular is carports as well. So using large parking lots, it can be a great use for a carport. So looking at that site, what is the ground like for a ground mount? Um, what are the underlying conditions or utilities that are there? Roof condition. How old is your roof? What type of roof do you have? What is the structural component of that roof? Can it hold the extra weight that we're putting on? That tends to be a big question for a lot of our commercial customers. So typically, depending on system size, it can be anywhere from 3 to 6 pounds per square feet, depending on how we're attaching to your system of additional weight for the solar. Um, and then also utility, understanding who your utility is. They have different interconnection rules and approaches. So in Ohio, we have a big mix of investor-owned utilities like your First Energies, your Duke Energy, your AEP Energy, and then also municipal utilities as well as rural co-ops. And so they're all have different rules, and they can all operate differently in how they take solar into their grid and how they affect your electric bill. So that's a big piece that we're looking at too. And then equipment selection, supplier due diligence, and supply chain. We have a whole team of a procurement team that'll handle and work and increases our inventory of products. Solar is Cocosing Solar is part of the Amicus Solar Cooperative. We're one of 80 installers across the country that is sharing best practices on solar, but also using that as a bulk purchasing group too, to get over $1 billion of purchasing power to negotiate with manufacturers, high quality manufacturers that meet some of our standards and due diligence. So we truly are a turnkey system. We engineer it, we design it for you, we procure the equipment, and then we self-perform that construction. And again, if your project that you're looking at is over a megawatt AC, we can help you meet those prevailing wage and apprenticeship program requirements so that you can get the full tax credit. So here, a little bit more. What Cocosine does, we have a commercial and industrial and utility scale team. We're currently building for a municipal utility in Southwest Ohio, a 10 megawatt solar project. That capacity to build larger projects is growing for us. And then we also have residential and light commercial team as well. So what these teams do primarily, as well as the commercial industrial, is work behind the meter. So we are installing behind your facilities or your business or office or car dealership's meter to essentially to offset those costs. And then we also have O&M service, an operations and maintenance team. So this includes, we're not just building and designing the system. We're going to be a partner for the life of the system, which can be up towards about 30 years or so. Um, so we are able to facilitate manufacturer warranties on your behalf, as well as roll trucks out to resolve an issue. And again, doing this all in house. Here's a list of some of our clients, both corporate, government, and education. And like I mentioned, we do large ground mounts. This project is for a university that actually has single access trackers on it. Here's a mixture of a carport system. This system is about I want to say about 12 plus years old now in Springfield, Ohio. If you're driving down 70, you'll be able to see it. But mixture of carport and rooftops here. And then another rooftop, more of a pitched rooftop system that we can do for this was a standing seam metal roof. So we're seeing a lot of these types of roofs in the manufacturing space, in the agricultural space. A standing seam roof is nice. We can clamp right onto the seams that you have on your roof there. And, we can incorporate a logo as well. So this is from Muskegon University and put their block M in here in the array. Not always the most cost effective, but definitely is great for marketing and PR. And we can do more custom options. This is a vertical wall that we did in an office building in Columbus. We actually have two of these systems in Columbus, which use vertical walls. So if you don't have a lot of roof space or parking lot space, this could be another option that you could utilize. Well, great. This is a good time that we can, if you haven't asked a question yet, we can throw some of those questions out, um, and happy to answer them. And again, use the Q&A feature, that if you have any questions to ask. All right. So we have one here. We have a couple coming in. Great, thank you. Um, First one is, does my project need to be in all three energy community categories? And so the answer is no. So what you want to make sure is that you're in just one of the three, essentially. And again, the coal plant closures and coal mine closures, those are, based off any closures after December 31st, 2009. And those are good until the tax credit is set to phase out in 2033. And another question we have here, at what stage of the project does my location need to be in an energy community? So the IRS, it looks at this in terms of placed in service. So when was the project placed in service? So for if you're in a coal census tract, then it just has to be in place in service by the end of 2033. Um, if you're in one of the MSAs, um, right now that is changing, like I said, annually. There may be a guidance out there. It'd be a good thing to ask your tax professional around safe harboring. So, for example, if your project starts construction or you've invested into the project in, let's say, March, and then the system isn't placed in service until June after the new map comes out, that could possibly impact your energy community. So if that is no longer an MSA, that's something that you want to look at. Um, there's a lot of, with that type of ruling, there's a lot of uncertainty. So what the IRS is providing some guidance potentially around safe harboring, that you can, if you start construction and have your system placed in service by a certain amount of time, you could still go on that previous year's um, uh, census track. But that's something that you'd want to confirm with your tax professional. All right. Got another question that came in here. So when do customers elect the PTC versus the ITC? Okay, so this is the Inflation Reduction Act added two different tax credits: a production tax credit and an investment tax credit. Investment tax credit is more of a lump sum tax credit, and it's based, if it's 30%, if you have $1 million project, 30%, $300,000. If you're able to take it with your liability, you could get that depending on how you're structured again in that the tax year that you file that this was installed. So that has a lot of certainty. People seem to like that approach more than a production tax credit, which is can be drawn out longer. So it's really a math equation between you and your tax consultant. Production tax credit is a tax credit based off of the production of the system. And so really looking at, what do I want more? Do I want to drag this out a little bit more and potentially get more in the long run, or get a lump sum at first? Um, we typically are seeing that more on a utility scale, um, where there's very large projects, as opposed to behind the meter projects that we're doing for some customers. All right. Any other questions um, from the group? All right. If not, again, thank you for our time. We're going to throw a link in here to the IRS, and there's an energy community website that has a lot of FAQs in there, so that those can be a great resource for you as you're looking at this. And we'll send a follow up too with any with a link to this presentation, and the links that we shared as well. Um, and if you're interested in solar and going solar, we sent out a link to our website. Happy to discuss anything about your property, see if it's a good fit for solar. My contact information is here, and be happy to help.